Okay, so let's kick off our day with a thought-provoking discussion for the beginning. Our first panel is all about fostering corporate innovation in food tech through collaboration and partnerships. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to our panelist, Andrew D Ive, General Managing Partner, Big Idea Ventures, Tilmann Petersen, Investment Manager High-Tech Gründerfonds, and Benoît Goldschmidt, Scientific Insight Director Bel Group, and of course the panel moderator, Michela Petronio, Blufuture Steercom Barilla. Big applause for our panelists. Okay, the stage is yours.
Thank you, and good morning again to everyone. It's very hard to kick off the first panel, second day after the amazing dinner yesterday. So let's go. So today we are gonna deep dive into the fascinating world of corporate and startup relationships, how those two entities come together to drive growth and innovation. And I would say that during the last years, these relationships have been evolving a lot and starting from very kind of humble movements around first conversations many years ago, and now the things are changing. So we have here today a fantastic panel of experts that will share their perspective, their views, their experience. So I will start with a very quick roundtable of personal introductions. Benoît.
Well, thank you for your kind introduction, and thank you to the organizer for inviting me. I'm Benoît Goldschmidt. I was impressed to be called an expert because I'm a pretty newcomer in the field of open innovation. My background, I'm working in a company who used to be a pure player in cheese making and diversifying its activity toward plenty of plant-based product and alternative protein products those days. My position until 2 years ago was the one of a scientist and kind of hyper-specialist of food physics. I spent about 20 years in trying to understand how the casein micelle disruption can contribute to the production of Vache-Qui-Rit co-processed cheese, so a very specialized activity. And about 3 to 4 years ago, when the group decided to diversify its playing field toward plant-based activity, driven obviously by a consciousness of our societal and environmental responsibility, I felt it was impossible to continue working with internal, pretty isolated research, hyper-specialized. We were too much broadening our scope, going from a thorough understanding of the 4 protein of milk into the hundreds of plant-based or alternative routes. It was no more possible to develop all this know-how internally. So I went gradually toward open innovation through low TRL projects, pre-collaborative, pre-competitive work, and gradually now I'm in charge of the full open innovation, meaning that for 1.5 years I'm strongly in contact with startups, contributed to build the partnership with startups we are pretty proud of at Bel.
Thank you. Tilmann.
Thank you for having me. I'm Tilmann Petersen, part of the investment team of the High-Tech Gründerfonds. I personally have a business background, so everything that qualifies me for life science and food tech. But I spent the last 17 years in the startup environment on different sides, from the investment sides, but also as a founder and partner in management teams. I think the first connection that I had to food tech was in 2014 when I started an own company, infant nutrition, from the Alpine region for the Southeast Asian market, mainly Indonesia, well underestimated, especially at that point in time. 2 years later, we sold it to the local management. And ever since I've been around in this space, I worked for several years for AIM Silk, a company in fermentation, so growing different kind of organisms for mainly producing silk proteins for different verticals, not only fibers as you might imagine, but I headed the business unit of MedTech, but we also worked in the agritech and food tech sector, leveraging the opportunities of silk proteins for different kinds of products. And at the High-Tech Gründerfonds, we invested in over 760 companies, having still 330 active companies, but a bit earlier in the food tech sector. We invested mainly in the biotech sector for pharma and analytics and in all the building blocks around it. And since a few years, we are strongly getting into food tech and agritech and trying to leverage all the learnings that we had in different verticals now in the food tech and agritech sector to get stronger there as well.
Thank you. Okay, so two persons quite new to the place, but we have also a veteran. So Andrew.
A veteran? Okay, I'm just old, is what you're saying. Okay, so good morning, everyone. How's everyone today? Given there's so many people here, I'd kind of encourage as many of you as want to come to the front, because there's seats here, just if you hadn't noticed, there's some seats in the front. Okay, so I'm Andrew Ive. I'm the Managing General Partner of Big Idea Ventures. We are, and this is an independent third party determined this, the most active investor in food technology in the world. We've got teams in Singapore, in Paris, in New York, and we're fortunate enough to run around the world finding incredible founders and entrepreneurs, and we do everything we can to help them to become successful. So that's what we do, that's our mission. When we started the company, we wanted to get corporates involved, partly because when people talk about a food system, that's exactly what it is. You need all of the different parts to work together efficiently for everything to work effectively. So, you know, we recognize that corporates have an incredibly important role to play, as do the entrepreneurs, as do academics, as does the government, et cetera, et cetera. So from our point of view, you know, we love to go out and help build the jigsaw puzzle, whether that's in one location like Singapore, because we were basically the first group out there sort of helping with the Singaporean government put all the pieces together. And now we're trying to do the same thing in Tokyo. We're trying to do the same thing in the Middle East and other places because, you know, we like to build that jigsaw puzzle of startups, governments, corporates, et cetera, and try and make the whole thing work effectively and efficiently.
No, thank you, Andrew. And I was mentioning, I mean, the fact that he's really one of the first person that saw at that time, I mean, the opportunity in this food tech ecosystem. So I will start again from you and ask you, due to your experience, and the same question will be for Tilmann as well as investor, you have seen so many companies, startups, trying to reach out corporately. So what actually, and why a startup should find a collaboration with the corporate? Why is this important? It is really important also today. Can you tell us more about your experience?
Yeah. Do you want to start?
Yeah. You or Tilmann, as you want.
I mean, there are very few markets in the world that where you can build a startup without corporates. Maybe it's social media, where you can build Facebook without big corporates. But in general, in many areas, cooperation with corporates are really important. And in this particular area, it's even more so. As a startup, you don't have, on the one hand, of course, you don't know the customers that good. But even if the customers at the end will grow your brand or the product, you won't get access to shelf space. You won't get access to different kind of streams, production sites, or insights without corporates. So it's really, without cooperating with corporates, you won't get anywhere. And the learnings that the corporates made in different kind of areas, you need these learnings as well as a startup.
Thank you. Andrew.
So two quick things. One, I'll give you a little story. I started my career at Procter & Gamble, one of the kind of largest companies in the consumer packaged goods space, incredibly good marketing company. When we wanted to create a new product, it typically took us from identifying the market opportunity to bringing a product or a product range to market about 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years, typically $20 to $30 million. We would have to organize the whole company around that new launch. It would be consumer insights instead of understanding the market and the consumer. It would be the marketing people in terms of developing the new branding and the new sort of go-to-market strategy. You'd have operations people figuring out how to manufacture it. You'd have the R&D function figuring out what should be brought to market from a technology perspective. So it took an entire organization and $20–30 million. And when you eventually launch that product to market, it was either successful or it was a failure. It was very binary. And so a lot of resources, a lot of time, and maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. If corporates have the ability to unlock and work effectively with startups, they effectively have 10 teams, 20 teams, and when I say teams, I mean startups. There are 10 startups, 20 startups, 30 startups around the world working on products and innovations relevant to Procter & Gamble or relevant to Barilla or relevant to other, other companies. And they are going out there as startups on their own, bringing something to market. And some of them are going to be successful, some of them are not. But if the corporates figure out how to identify those companies that are strategically interesting to them, follow them, perhaps support them, perhaps engage with them, they can actually find winners without spending that 2 to 3 years internally, having the whole organization for a binary yes, no, positive, negative result. So if they can just figure out how to go identify all of those different startups that are strategic and relevant, they can actually get the winners for a lot less investment and a lot less time. So that's kind of a quick story around that. But why corporates and why startups? Corporates are really, really very good at a few key things: scale up and distribution. They are unfortunately quite bad at innovation. Sorry for all the corporates out there who are, think they're amazing at innovation. Generally, they're not very good at innovation. So if they can bring the innovators who are very good at it, i.e. the startups, the young companies, the small, fast-moving teams, if they can identify those and combine that with the scale and the distribution world-class capabilities of the corporates, you put those two things together and magic happens. And that's what we're really very focused on.
Thank you. Thank you for elaborating with such a clear vision. But now I guess I have to ask you the same question from the corporate side. So why should the Bel Group collaborate with startups, and how can you be attractive for startups? What do you have to offer them?
So on the first question, on the why question, I think Andrew said all or most of the story. That is, your pretty harsh criticism toward corporate is, I must say, extremely true. But probably because we are specialists of a very narrow range of activity and we can't broaden you, we have a very specialized view, although we are big. And so I think I brought a little bit of context in my introduction that the company scopes, and I think it's true for Bel, but it's true for most companies, broaden so big with all these food transitioning question that it broadened horizontally. We went from a pure player in cheese toward fruit product, toward alternative cheese-like plant-based product. That's a huge shift, but there is also a huge vertical shift. That means that we were specialists in transforming milk into cheese, but we have also, for this milk to cheese business, to integrate far more our value chain toward the upstream, from farm to fork, toward the agricultural dimension of our job that was considered as not within our business few years ago, and now we are with all this scope 3 analysis of a life cycle assessment, for instance. We need to integrate that within our scope. So this we obviously can't do alone. So that's not a complete answer. We would need an hour to answer fully about why startups, but how we start up, how can we be attractive to startup was your second part of your question. And that's a tricky one, especially considering we are a pretty big corporate, but still a dwarf compared to Nestle, Unilever, and all those companies that have very specialized services that provide a thorough scouting analysis of their ecosystem. So we can be analyzed as a bit weak compared to them in what we can bring to a startup. So we worked a lot on that to be a welcoming place for startup, which means that when interacting first time with a startup, we immediately present to them what we can bring them, and what we can bring them, obviously, they don't have are innovation capabilities. I would say labs. They obviously have lab to develop their ingredients, their technological solution, but we have the end of the value chain labs that enable to go into food physics, my former job, but also biology, biotechnology. So we can provide access to our lab, but also access to our technological facilities, our pilot plant. So we have a range of pilot plants that enable to cover any type of application relevant to us. So these pilot plants are open to them at a certain stage of our collaboration when we go into a joint development agreement or that type of agreement. And this we explained from the very beginning which resource we can put to the service. And added to this innovation capability stuff, there is also all our know-how of our markets, our consumer science, market insight, our brand, the potential fit between the Lafinco, Boursin, Pompot, all those brands, and their ID, their technological ID. This can be extremely attractive, provided we built the fit between their technological solution and our needs.
So,
may I ask an additional question, which could be interesting for the startups here as well? If a company wants to cooperate with you on a technological or food application product, which department, company, vehicle or person should they talk at Bel?
Well, we have two entry points, but working hand in hand. First entry point is my team, Open Innovation, which is within Research Innovation Development team. So I'm the contact person for any scientific to technological question, putting them in interaction with the internal specialist, both in research scientists and in development, the brand specialist within the company. And the second, our teammates are in a structure, in a unit named Bel Venture. And so they are not a venture capital, corporate venture capital, as you may experience, but they are really the partnering structure. So they are building the financial and business analysis and all the help in helping the startup to grow from this point of view, everything that is not technical and scientific.
So one person at Bel is Caroline Sorlin. Yeah. Sorlin. She's a person that you can reach out to through LinkedIn.
She's head of that team I was mentioning, yeah.
Perfect. We're missing an opportunity to hear from Barilla because you're the moderator. So you're asking us the questions, and we're not hearing about one of the best companies in Italy in the food space. So can you what?
No, I mean, thank you for asking. So no, I can echo for sure Benoît's word. We strongly believe that collaboration with startups is a way to boost innovation. It's really, I mean, we realized this, I would say 8 years ago now, and it was really amazing seeing the new words of startup coming from North America at that time. So we tried to find a way to talk and really to talk at the very beginning was very difficult to establish a conversation. innovation. So we also chose to open a corporate venture capital. Today we have an internal accelerator. In the room here there is Claudia, head of open innovation. We are trying to work a lot internally because maybe this next question, sometimes it's easy to find innovators outside the company. It's very hard to bring them safely inside the company. And I always say we don't have to lose time. We don't have to lose time. The startups are burning cash. So we have to be very mindful about each other's time. So thank you and congratulations to Bel Group for such an openness and such. So any startups who want to reach us, I mean, here Benoît, Claudia, we are here. So coming back to the investors, for Tilmann, a question about the fact that you have gained such an experience outside the food sector. So you have seen also innovation going from one sector to another. And so which is the advice you would give to a founder with a very innovative idea, very innovative technology? So how do you look at innovation and new technology? Which kind of advice would you?
That's a hard question. Looking at all the industries, we are investing always in high-tech, so high-tech Gründerfonds. With the experience of over 760 investments, we of course made an analysis inside our organization, especially why companies failed. And also, it seems a bit, it sounds stupid, and because you hear it in all startup events, you read in all the books from Steve Blank and all the others, product market fit. Many companies that we see and the sector sees are very focused on their technology. They work a lot on solving problems, doing all the things, but in the end, 2/3, and in our portfolio even way more of the startups failed because of a missing product market fit. It's sometimes, of course, MVPs are important, but also overestimating MVPs that they do with early adopters might drive them to different or wrong directions. So understanding, apart from the technology, understanding a real market fit, a real benefit for the consumers, but also for the partners that are there in the ecosystems, corporates or whoever. This is so crucial. And just looking at some of the companies that we saw, really innovative technology, good value proposition for the consumers, but in the end, SuccessFactors was, for example, a Munich-based company working on chocolate alternatives. And the reason why they're so positive is not because they bring value to the consumer. Of course, they do. They have good taste and everything, but the reason why they're successful is because they have stable prices in the rising chocolate price market, and they have a very homogeneous product quality for this price. So value proposition and the market fit might be totally different for different stakeholders, and working directly towards this and selling this to the right person, the right company at the right time is really crucial. So innovation and hype cycles are relative. Finding the right product market fit is really crucial and always underestimated beyond the technology that the startups work on.
Thank you. Andrew, due to your experience, again, you have seen many cases, also collaborations. So could you share some really best practice that you have seen of such collaboration and partnerships, and maybe pitfalls to avoid?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm looking, we have about 2.5 minutes, so I'll try and...
I'm looking there.
Oh, yeah, okay. So collaboration, good examples of collaborations and pitfalls to avoid. We had 8 global corporate partners in our first fund. We've got multiple corporates in our second. Some of the best examples I've seen, and I'll be specific about that, I'll even mention the companies because they're just really phenomenal. Givaudan and Bühler have been 2 amazing partners of ours since the very beginning. I think part of it has to do with their approach. So, for example, on the Bühler side, Ian Roberts, the global technology officer of Bühler, has a very open-minded, giving first approach to working with startups. His goal and his team's goal and his whole organization's goal is to support and work with and just encourage as many startups as possible around the world. He's been involved in Mass Challenge as well, which is I don't think they're exactly not-for-profit. I think they are actually a not-for-profit. So their approach when working with startups, first and foremost, is to help them. and they're not walking into that relationship as a corporate trying to figure out how can we get something out of this relationship, how can we find the best technology and take it within the organization. They're not approaching it like that. They're actually very sort of, let's support as many startups as possible, let's work with as many founders as possible, and if we have a great relationship, maybe it will benefit us at some point in the future, maybe it won't, but we're all better off for that kind of relationship. And I think that's been a phenomenal way of engaging with the startup community. So I think Beulah have been very good at that. Givaudan are very good too. Best practices around Givaudan, they've got an internal business plan across their different divisions for engagement with startups. And what I mean by that is they have individual people, for example, in the R&D function, whose responsibility is to engage with startups, identify interesting technologies and/or teams, and those internal teams within Givaudan are incentivized to find those startups and to make them a productive relationship. They've got a mini business plan, they've got a budget associated with that interaction, and they segment the startups they meet according to two or three different groups. So they've got startups, they identify who could one day be a big customer, could be a customer of theirs. And so they have an internal treatment strategy, people responsible, KPIs and a mini budget for encouraging those kind of startups. They have another category, which is startups who may end up being a contributor from a scientific perspective. And so they've got an R&D team who have some responsibility of engaging with startups like that, with a mini budget, KPIs, and a way of assessing whether it works or doesn't work. So that's been a really effective way of not just lip service to working with startups and showing internally, aren't we good, we're working with startups. They actually have a budget, KPIs, people with certain degree of responsibility for getting things done, and it's measured, and there are metrics around it, and that's been really effective.
Thank you. So we're out of time. I don't know if we have a few minutes for a question from the audience. Yes, we have. Okay. Any question? There is a question over there.
Hi. I'm Dimitri. I'm here as a freelancer, but I'm looking to move to corporate innovation in the future. I'd just like to understand your perspective on the different approaches that you can take. There's the one, like you mentioned, strategic investment, but there's also maybe moving into venture clienting or all the way to a joint venture. What's your opinion from maybe the VC side, investment side, and corporate?
So question to the VCs or more to the corporate, sorry?
From my perspective, more corporate, but I'd love to understand on the both sides how you feel it affects the corporates and the startups.
I can take this from corporate VC. So I don't see a real model. So at least as we approach relationships and partnerships, it's really case by case. I give you an example. So we might decide to start a collaboration. It might be also a paid collaboration if we believe this is the kind of core relationship. So you do research for me, I pay for the research, and that's it. Or if we see a move to a long-term alignment, so maybe the technology is not ready, the experiments are very initial, we see a really mutual alignment, meaning that what I'm doing, is taking value from what you are doing, but you need me to progress your business, then in that case, we might also invest. In our case, that is the intention. So we don't make investment for the sake of financial return, but we want to be sure that if there is something which is of mutual interest, we can help each other and work towards a mutual result. I don't know which is your perspective.
I fully agree with that. Avoid any rigid model of when and why and how our corporate company should invest. No systematic model, but at the size of company like Bel, not the huge major of the food industry. It has to serve the strategy of the partnership. It has to help to solve a bottleneck in the collaboration. It's one element of the collaboration. It's not a purpose in itself.
Good. I think, I don't know if there are other questions. Quick one. Ah, yeah, there.
Good morning. My name is Pareen Shah. I'm with BioVeritas. We've talked to a number of corporate venture partners, and the inevitable response we always get is, we'll be your second customer, we don't want to be your first. Everybody wants to be a silver medalist. How do we get them to want to be a gold medalist?
I don't have this exact feeling that we don't want to be the first. I think the three recent partnership I have in mind, we were at least in our field of activity, we were experimenting being the first to propose precision fermentation dairy protein inside one of our cheese product, being the first in launching a collaboration with a startup on formulation through AI. And last one about biomass protein, we didn't wait for somebody to be in a collaboration mode with the startup to launch our collaboration. So I would not share this analysis.
And I will have to interrupt you right here because we are running out of time. And I have this little thing, this device in my ear, and they are really shouting at me right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give a huge applause for our panelists for sharing their thoughts, insight with us. Thank you very much for this inspiring discussion.